The choreography of that dip was so perfectly executed.
Yeah.
And that just feels nice because like the camera timing and the dip and like, I mean, she looks like she knows exactly what she's doing.
That was kind of a happy accident. So what Adam explained, that was a lot of planning and intentionality of like, this is what we want to look like. We're going to put a lot of effort into making it look like exactly this. And then there's other things that happen where you're like, we didn't plan that at all, but looks great.
Founded in 1999 by Jason Burks, Retrospec Films is Oklahoma's largest turnkey production company of its kind. With a full-time team of over 20 talented individuals, a 12,000 square foot studio to create in, and a resume that spans some of the world's largest brands, if you love learning about filmmaking and storytelling, you've come to the right place. On each episode, we discuss the pursuit of creating things and the problems we solve by digging up projects from the last 20 years. Giving you a glimpse behind the scenes where the magic happens. You're listening to Retrospec Films from the archives.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on Retrospec from the Archives, our in-house podcast where we talk about the creative things that we create in filmmaking here at Retrospec and all the problems we solve along the way. Joining me today is Adam Vigil, cinematographer, editor, colorist, director. You don't write, but maybe you do.
Sometimes.
A little bit of writing.
Stuff I work on, but
a lot.
You do brainstorm a lot. And Caroline, client manager, creative strategist, director. I like to say, I don't have another word for vocalist.
Singer?
Singer. Singer-er?
Singerer, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a singer-er. We today are going to talk about a pretty cool project that we recently did, but I'm going to get a little background and then we'll fire it off. This project, Adam was the director of photography on, and Caroline, mostly the director, but a little bit of co-directing.
Yes, with the artist.
A little bit of choreography. Yeah, with the artist. So, this project came from an unsatisfiable desire for everybody that works here to do music videos. And, we always talk about at the beginning of the year, can we do more music videos? We like music videos. Let's do more. But you kind of have to shift your mind into that space to get there because we're usually booked and we have so many other things going on. So a few years back, really, I guess scattered across a couple years, Adam, you've worked on several music videos and been the DP on music videos for Shane. Mm-hmm. And I think Brandon's kind of produced and then Shane sort of self-directed. Is that how that's gone?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination. Brandon, I think, is listed as the director, but in a music video scenario, the artist is almost always kind of takes that director, creative director, and on-set director role.
Yeah. So we knew that Shane, being friends with Brandon, that was an easy one for us to say, hey, if you want a music video, let's put the team's resources into it, try to create something really cool. And this also, Caroline's been directing a little bit more lately. She also has a lot of like choreography and dance background, and there was a lot of dancing and doo-wopping in this video. So it was like, hey, this would be a good one for Caroline to jump in there. Plus, we knew that Shane would have a loud specific vision that he wanted. So it was like, this could only help. It wouldn't hurt at all. So let's go ahead and fire off this music video. It just came out. It's called It's Halloween.
Yep.
Original song by Shane, but he goes by
I Am Not Shane.
I Am Not Shane is his musician artist name. So let's play that.
We have a right. Come on, baby, turn the fireplace on. Spin a record, play me your favorite song. I'm not afraid of anything in the dark. And not as scary if you're not mine. It's Halloween, don't be alarmed. It's just a knock at the door. Who's at the door? Who's at the door? I'm not afraid of anything anymore. Who's at the door? Who's at the door? The dead night, so much incoming I can't deny. I was decomposing till you brought me back to life. It's Halloween, come on baby, turn the fireplace on. Spin a record, play me your favorite song. I'm not afraid of anything in the dark. But not as scary if you know I'm around. It's Halloween, throw on something that'll speed up my heart.
Okay, so as you can see, it's real specific. It's got some vintage retro vibes going on, taking it back. And I think some of those were represented in color grade. A lot of it was represented in color grade. Some of it was represented in cinematography. A lot of it was represented in art direction and design. And then just overall idea, right? Like just the types of sets that were being created and the movement and the dancing and all those different things. So I think I'd like to start. Why don't we start with you, Caroline? Let's talk a little bit about your first introduction into this project, the conversations, the brainstorming, the involvement, kind of the idea and all that jazz.
Yeah. So Shane sent over to Brandon and just the whole crew, kind of like his ideas. Really, it was like the lyrics paired with what movement and visual he wanted, kind of written out, and then he had some like reference photos. And so we got on a call and just kind of talked through everything we would need, what parts he felt like he wanted help with when it came to movement or just ideas, and we kind of just went back and forth a little bit. But he really did have a clear vision for really like the majority of the video. So that was super helpful. And then from there, we were able to just kind of curate that vision and figure out how to make it work in the spaces that we'd found. Brandon found a cool Airbnb that was very like 60s feeling, which is what they were going for. And then we shot the other portion in our studio. And so just thinking through like, yeah, how are we going to execute this vision? And then on the choreography side, I mean, Shane he wouldn't say he's a dancer probably, but he has like dance moves of his own. If you watch his music videos, it's very, very much dance driven. And so I wanted to make sure that we were like staying true to his movement, but also staying true to the 60s vibe and movement as well. And so then we kind of put our heads together and came up with, what would work for both of those objectives. And yeah, so that's kind of what my role was on set, was just helping maintain that vision.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit maybe about the translation through the lens. So, Adam, why don't you talk about your approach to, camera selection, lenses, lighting, framing, all those things?
Yeah, so a lot of it is to kind of have full control of the visuals. So cameras and lenses that can kind of be adaptable, but not without having to bring a bunch of different lenses and a bunch of different cameras, because we're going for a bunch of different looks. So for me, I chose a red. I think it was our red Scarlet. It's not the newest camera, but it's a camera that I've always just enjoyed using, and it has the ability to shoot in RAW, so you can have basically the full amount of control in post-production. So we knew there was going to be something that is kind of a more modern day, but like 1960s in color, but still needing to kind of look like it has a film grade on it. And then another transition scene where we're shooting something that looks like it's on a TV from the 60s, but kind of replicating the American Bandstand look. So that was kind of the reason for the camera choice. Also, we knew like some off-speed stuff was going to be in there, so that camera can shoot, I think, 120 frames a second in 4K. So having that flexibility was kind of the reason behind the camera choice. Lenses, we used several different ones, but all within the same brand or the same kind of kit. So I think we used the, I want to say it was the Zeiss Milvis kit that kind of let us have a singular prime focus on it. And then we had some other lenses on set that we knew we needed to do some pop zooms, because he really likes that. And rather than doing it in post, which is what we've done on a lot of the other music videos, we needed something that could have a throw that can stay consistent. So like a lot of lenses, if you're zooming, it'll be in focus in the wide, but then when you zoom in, it kind of loses focus naturally. So we needed something that can kind of be dialed in and just work with these zoom shots that we're doing. So that was the reason for those. I think we used the Sigma, we have like an 18 to 35 and a 50 to 100 cinema lens. So just those two kind of, different types of lenses were kind of the visual style of it. And it allowed us to kind of be flexible on set and not have to recompose every single time, but also to kind of stay consistent when we were using the primes, so that a lot of the house shots stayed the same when we're kind of going from place to place, and just keep that like low profile, minimalistic, camera package, because we're kind of moving pretty fast. We shot the whole thing in a day and a half, basically. Stuff in the studio, a half day in the studio, and then at the house, moving around the neighborhood, that kind of stuff. So we knew we needed to have a camera system that could help us achieve all those different looks that we were going for, but then also something that was minimalistic and can be a little bit run and gun and move around a lot.
What was your approach on lighting?
Yeah, so very I guess there's two setups. So the first day we shot in the studio, and that was the American Bandstand stuff. So in the research process, I just watched a bunch of American Bandstand and kind of broke down their setup. So it's kind of cool because that whole show was shot in a studio a lot like ours. It's not like on a stage. It's literally just a television studio. So they had like a truss system just like ours. They had like studio chairs, and like they didn't care if like the reverse shots showed like the camera crew or the just whatever gear, storage gear was behind it. So it had that kind of unique feel that we leaned into, but all of the lighting was just one direction. So for us, we knew the curtain in the background, if we lit that at one direction and just kept everything, all of the light was just single direction, I think from camera left to right. And that would kind of catch the texture on the curtain. That would kind of key everything. And then maybe in the reversal, we would throw an edge, sort of the shot where she falls down, he picks her up. There's like an edge kind of behind her. And that's shooting at them really hard, kind of simulating like a theater or a stage spotlight. Like if you've ever seen a movie or something, or if you've ever been in a band or something and been on stage, you see the light is like really hard at the people if you're standing behind the singer or something. So we're kind of simulating that, but then when you flip it to the main shot, it looks kind of soft and everything's lit pretty evenly and sort of a high key balance for that. So that's kind of what we went for. We had to kind of light it in some depth because there's the main actors and then the two in the background. So we had to make sure that there was some consistency between the two of them. But for the most part, it was just kind of looking and lighting something like American Bandstand, which was pretty simple and minimalistic, just like lots of fixtures moving a single direction. And then in the house, we kind of picked a similar thing where we I talked to the guys and I said, this is, we have these windows here. We're going to block out every window in the whole house and then just kind of create our own sunlight because we needed the whole, shoot the whole day to feel like it's dusk or like the same like 6 p.m., a sun setting hour. But we needed that to stay consistent throughout the whole day because we had several things in the house, at the doorway, outside. It all had to look like it was within the same hour of the day. So that was kind of our challenge on set. So we blocked out every sliding door in the house that let in so much natural light and just created our own sunlight and said, we just kind of picked a direction on set. And I told Garber and Mark, our lighting crew on that day, we're going to pick a direction for the sun and then just commit to it the rest of the shoot. So when we're in the record player in the beginning, that same beam of light is the one that you see that's kind of keying them in the the fireplace. So when you're in that part of the house, it looks really soft because they're still being keyed by this light that's outside on the porch. And then when they move toward the door, that light is the same fixture and it's just hitting them a little bit harder at the doorway. And then when they're in the living room dancing, you see it really bright, kind of like panning up from the TV. So we just kind of had to simulate the sun and then just picked a setup and then just committed to it. So it stayed kind of consistent and it changed different intensities as you're moving through the house, but stayed kind of consistent overall.
One thing that I've always found really interesting about and you can see it all through time, but it changes from 1920 till now, is how lighting changes based on what cameras could do. And I'm always amazed, like every now and then I'll watch like a Hitchcock film that was shot in the 50s and it looks beautiful, which is mind-bending because that style is actually really specular and very bright, and it's because cameras couldn't see things otherwise.
Yeah.
And so it's always funny when you if you really want to know the true feat of actors in a 1960s film shooting interiors, it's their ability to keep their eyes open and look natural when they're actually getting blasted with the 20K light fixture the whole time. And so you don't see a lot of soft lighting preceding 1970 because cameras needed more light. It was specular. It was just, which that bandstand look is all that, just shot hard spec.
we had probably 4 or 5 fixtures all just lined up right next to each other, kind of simulating like 3 10Ks or something that like would be backed off, but just as much as we could while still kind of keeping them really close to them. So lots of diffusion, like so many silks just like lining that just barely out of frame, so their faces aren't overblown. But yeah, tons of fixtures all just firing one direction.
Yeah. So, Caroline, I'm curious, what do you feel like the major problems were that you were kind of dynamically solving across the time period? I mean, it sounds like there is a time of day aspect. I know there's a children aspect.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Talk about some of the things that you were like trying to fix so they would be their best.
Yeah, I think for me, it was really just making sure I really trusted Adam to have the setup and the look already. So my job was to bring the people at the right time and have them be ready to do the movement that they're set to do. So in the bandstand look, that was making sure, like we had a lot of rehearsals with the 2 guys that are like the backup singers. So making sure they knew the choreography. They weren't necessarily dancers. And so, you know, really in layman's terms being like, okay, this is what we're doing. And they picked it up really fast. And making sure that Lainey and Shane were coordinated together and they're partnering and all that. And then when the kids arrived, I think we had 6 or 7, like 6 to 9-year-olds, girls that came to be like our little ghosts. And so they had some movement that we wanted to do. So I like brought them inside. We got them all costumed up and we did a rehearsal for them so that once Adam was ready with like the slider shot for that, I could just bring them out and we could just do it. And they'd be ready. And so there's a little bit of extra care that you take when you're working with kids and how you explain things, how you get them to be respectful and respond and be quiet when they're supposed to, and then also be alive and engaged when they're on camera and it's ready to do the thing. And then we had one other boy that was also on set with us, Ty, actually. And so that was fun. And he did a great job, too. So really with him, I just taught him the movement really quick, and we practiced a couple times. So that was kind of the rhythm, was like Adam was setting up the shot, making sure the lighting and everything looked great, that it was stylized correctly. And I was prepping the actors to be ready to come and do their part excellent so that we didn't have to do a bunch of different takes. So
I'm curious, this is a question for each of you. What was your favorite scene in the music video after it's like complete and you watch it?
I would say either the bandstand stuff or the stuff in the living room. Kind of like we did a couple little
the dancing with
There's a couple. I think we only ran like 3 or 4 takes on it because
I think it was like 3.
We nailed it in like the second take.
Yeah.
But it was the shot. We knew we were going to do this thing where they're kind of going into the TV and then pulling out of it. So we kind of pull out of the TV, the slider is on the floor, and we're just kind of pulling out and like panning up. And we were trying to coordinate, like they were kind of, as I was setting up, Caroline was rehearsing their little dip and everything. So we make sure, we don't hit the camera or anything, or he doesn't drop Lainey or something like that. So then by the time we rolled on it, I think it was like 3 or 4 takes and we got it. I think the shot we used was like the second take and just got a couple safety takes. But I think that one looked really pretty, and it just kind of was a shot where it kind of looked on screen the way it looked in all of our heads going into it, which I think is kind of the success that what you can hope for. And same thing with the bandstand stuff. It all, it looked the way it looked in our heads, which I think is always an accomplishment.
Yeah, I would agree. Those are probably my favorite shots too, just because it felt like a mystery, like, okay, how are we going to do this? And then we did it. And so that felt really successful. And they're really pretty, like all of those looks. But I also like, there's like a slow motion dance sequence with the ghost at the end that was kind of just like random. We just were like, well, let's just get some safety of like these little ghosts dancing around and having a party. And there's one where a girl's like dancing with the skeleton. And they had so much fun doing that, so it was just fun to like let them play. But then like seeing it in real time and how fast and goofy and loud they were being, and then seeing it in slow-mo, it was just so funny. It just looked great, and it looked like what we needed in that little section of time. So that was kind of a happy accident. So what Adam explained, that was a lot of planning and intentionality of like this is what we want to look like. We're gonna put a lot of effort into making it look like exactly this. And then there's other things that happen where you're like, we didn't plan that at all, but looks great, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's awesome. I feel like, different parts of me like different things, but I think that obviously there was something unique. I don't know if it's Lainey's fault or your fault, but the choreography of that dip was so perfectly executed.
yeah.
And that just feels nice because, like, the camera timing and the dip, and, like, I mean, she looks like she knows exactly what she's doing, and he
Yes.
does a great job. I really liked that. And then, strangely, not necessarily the cinematographer in me, but maybe just the storyteller, there was something about the cutting of him having the Frankenstein mask on and then the little kid having it.
Yes.
And then that little
Dancing.
thing. That was just something about that was iconic and comical, and it made me smile each time. And that's probably like my favorite part. Like that little sequence, for some reason, I'm just like, I don't even know. What's funny is I don't even know what it's trying to say with him wearing the mask all of a sudden and the kid having it on. I don't really know. I just know that there's something about it that I like.
Yeah, the lyric there is like, the dead and I have so much in common I can't deny.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what he was going for, that, they have this thing in common. They're both Frankenstein, you know. But really, what I loved about it, it was like what you said, there is a little comedy there kind of in the midst of, the rest of it's not really comedic. Maybe there's some moments at the end. But yeah, I like the little lighthearted comedy break there.
Yeah, it is a catchy song for sure. So, well, awesome. Well, I think you guys did a great job. That was cool to watch because I wasn't a part of any of it whatsoever, and it's always fun seeing cool things that get created. I'm sure Adam was probably fighting because he didn't get to edit that one, but maybe not.
Sort of. He edited the thing or the kind of the story the way he has it, which is actually nice because he just got to pass it off to me, and I did the color and the visual effects.
Yeah.
And when you don't have to worry about the edit, I think it's actually pretty nice. Yeah,
that's great. We give you plenty of other opportunities to edit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm not hurting for opportunities.
That's awesome.
Not bored.
Not bored. So, all right. Well, we appreciate you guys joining us on today's episode of Retrospect from the Archives. If you enjoyed what you heard or saw, we've got over 40 of these, almost 50 on our website. It's retrospectfilms.com, and we look forward to seeing you on future episodes. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.